So this all started with me lying on the floor in a baby feeding room in the middle of a wedding because I've been completely caught off guard with my period and I could not function if I did not get some drugs in me ASAP. And I was lying on the floor in the dark in my Sunday best at this wedding, waiting on my other half to go and try and find a shop to get me some drugs so I could come back, take the drugs, wait 20 to 25 minutes and then become functional again. And it was at this point when I was lying on the floor that I thought, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And that was when I realized I need to learn how to fix my periods. Enough is enough. I'm not spending the next 30 years of my life in pain, on edge, wondering if my period is just going to come and ruin everything else I have going on in my life. And thankfully I managed that, and I'm going to share with you how I managed to fix my period naturally so you can do the same with yours. Having lived a number of years with a lot of period drama, the novelty that I still have of having pain-free, regular, kind of boring periods still hasn't worn off. I was on a run the other day and it was within the first 24 hours of getting my bleed, my period, and I felt fine to do it. Was I going to get my personal best? Was I going to run the fastest I've ever run? No, but I was able to do it. And having spent many years feeling like I was on edge with if I was going to get my period, because my period was really irregular, it would also be really heavy, it would also be really painful. And at certain points in my life, my period was coming every 18 days. So it just felt like I was constantly bleeding, and then that blood loss can have effect on how much nutrients are in your body, all of that sort of stuff. So I want to share with you today some of the things that have really made a difference in terms of bringing more balance to my hormones, so that your periods and your hormones and the fact that you have a female physiology and womb and ovaries actually becomes a strength. It's not something that we have to make up for, or is it a weakness or holds us back. Yes, we're cyclical and our periods have an impact and they have a consequence, but I don't think that means you just need to lounge in bed all the time, unless you really want to. But that's not what I want to do. I want to be cycling normally and climbing up mountains, making food. I've got kids to look after. I don't want to just be feeling like I was stuck in bed like I used to. And with the pain that would come, with the heaviness, with the mood and PMS that would happen, with the clotting, all of these kind of things often meant that in and around my period, there was a lot of things I couldn't do. I felt limited in some way. And I didn't think that the female body, I didn't think that my hormones were there to limit me. The whole point of having my hormones and hormone cycles is to have that opportunity for creating new life, which is this incredible, miraculous, and magical thing. So if that's one of the goals of having hormones, then surely the process of cycling, of having a cycle and a period is not meant to be this grim thing that we to endure. And in my 20s and in my late teens, I just kind of experienced enough of the suffering and the pain that I thought there must be a solution here. There must be a reason. And I went around and finding it. So I'm going to share with you a couple of the key things that have made a real difference when it comes to balancing and just fixing my period. So honestly, that my period is really boring. That's kind of the goal here, is that it's just boring. And even now, as I'm beginning to enter that perimenopause and there is some fluctuations and changes, I know exactly how to rebalance my periods. I know how to just add a bit more boredom to my cycle, so that yes, things are cyclical and move up and down at the different phases of my cycle, but there's also a stability there. And most importantly for me, a resilience. The reason I care about health so much is because I care about my freedom. I want to be able to do what I want to do when I do it. I don't want to feel limited or held back by fatigue, joint pain, heavy periods, the fear of if my period will come, cramping, diarrhea, all these things that can often come with our cycles. I didn't want to be limited to that. So I've learned some of the ways to naturally really fix and balance my periods and hormones, and I want to share them with you just while I'm making this apple crumble, because that's not one of the points of this video, but I feel like a good quality apple crumble, or apple crisp if you're from North America, always helps things. So what are some of the things that really help me to fix my period and cycle and make them really boring? First things first, I'm going to share with you, I think it is 4 different things that have really helped me. But one of the key things that I say over and over and over and over again as a holistic nutritionist who's worked with hundreds of people and so many women with various hormonal and period issues that maybe aren't the same as mine. It might be they don't get their period, so we want them to get their period back. Maybe their periods are incredibly heavy and they're flooding all over their office seat at work. Maybe it's around really bad ovulation pain or pain throughout the cycle, or just through discovering the fact from working together and working with their medical team that they have endometriosis, adenomyosis, fibroids. There's so many things that can go on within your womb. And I want to share with you how I fix my periods, but I've helped a lot of women do this in various ways. And so the thing that really makes the difference, I'm going to share with you a couple of practical things, so don't worry, this isn't going to be just like all vague oversight. I want to give you some of the juicy stuff that you can go and do this week. But the thing that makes the biggest difference is understanding your unique root cause. What is the why behind your symptoms? What is really going on? And you need to define that in order to make the most progress. So for me, with my periods, I really need to look at, okay, I was having short cycles, there was heaviness there was pain there was fatigue there was PMS there. So what was behind that? So for me, it was a lot to do with my progesterone levels, and my estrogen levels were low. Also looking at my detoxification, I had terrible gut health. So I also needed to work on my gut health, because gut health plays a huge role in hormonal health. There was some nutrient depletions. There was a whole host of things going on. And that's my unique story. That might not be yours, but the way you're going to make progress is by understanding what your unique root cause is, not just by trying to bash all the symptoms off with random supplements that you buy on the internet. I have used supplements, and supplements can really help with hormones, but only if they are targeting the real problem. Because like I say to my clients all the time, how are you expecting yourself to solve a problem when you don't know what the problem is? So that's the first thing. So what are some of the specific things that have really helped me to fix my cycle? The first one being is that I needed to ditch dieting mentality. I joined my first dieting club when I was age 11, you know, where you go to like the weekly weigh-ins and you all clap and talk about what you ate. And so there was a lot of kind of dieting indoctrination that needed to be undoctrinated, cleansed out of my brain. And I needed to learn that it's okay to eat more. So eating more whole foods, not more like ultra processed fake foods, but more whole foods, especially fats, proteins, and fibers, was really, really important for my hormonal health journey and helping me really fix my period. The next thing that was really important and useful was also doing some work on my gut health. My gut was probably worse than my periods, with all the IBS, all the bowel issues. It was really a, I was going to say, show, but I'm not trying not to swear on YouTube. So really working on my gut health, because when we think about hormones and thinking about period problems, so say you've got awful, heavy, painful periods and you just want them to be better. When we're doing any work with hormones, any work at all with hormones with clients, what I'm always reminding people of is about 2 things, if we're being really simplistic. Number 1, about how much hormone you're producing. Are you making too much estrogen, too little estrogen, too much progesterone, too little progesterone, too much testosterone, too little testosterone, too much DHEA, too little DHEA? So it's the production. But now this is the thing nobody thinks about or talks about. It's also about how you then remove those hormones. So we make hormones, but we're cycling females. A healthy, fertile female in her cycling years is somebody that does not have the same amount of hormone in her system every day. We have hormones that go up and then they go down and then they go up and then they go down. So we need to be good at A, the production, and B, equally important, the removal, the metabolism, the elimination of said hormones. What plays a role in that? Our gut health and our liver health, for want of a better phrase. So really needing to work on detoxification and supporting our liver and all the different detox pathways in the body was a really, really important part in how I fix my own periods, but it plays a role in every single female that I work with where there is hormonal issues. We want to really make sure we're A, supporting the final pathways of elimination. So we're thinking really simplistically here about wee and poo. So making sure you've got really healthy bowels and that you're staying hydrated and that everything with your kidneys and urine and peeing regularly is really important, because those are like the final stages of elimination. But then coming before that, you've actually got a lot of different stages within the liver and within the gut health that you need to support. And that was a huge one for me. I really needed to support my gut health and my detox pathways. And when I started to do that, I saw differences really, really quickly. And if you want more information on what exactly to eat to support your hormones, I do have a whole video on that. But just while you're here and listening, one food that does wonders for your hormones are brassica vegetables. So we're talking broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, especially broccoli sprouts if estrogen metabolism or you suspect estrogen dominance is going on. Those can be some really helpful foods. The next thing that makes a huge difference, and this was something I really didn't want to hear, and so I totally understand it if you don't want to hear this either, but is managing your stress levels and the amount of cortisol going on in your body and the stress hormones that and the stress response that you're having on a day-to-day basis makes a huge difference in your periods. And it did for me. Being someone that lives with complex PTSD, neurodivergence, there was a lot of stress in my life that I didn't really want to look at and didn't really want to associate with my periods. I just didn't want to deal with that. And actually, when I finally started to look and add in some really healthy practices, or just start to manage my stress response in my body using tools and proven methodologies to really help with my stress levels, that made a huge difference to how I was experiencing my periods, and even now as I'm entering kind of perimenopause. So this is one of the things that we often think, oh yeah, stress, whatever, it doesn't have a lot to do with it. But I would really challenge you, if you're struggling with your hormones in your periods, to actually look at, okay, how could I manage my stress better? Or are there ways, are there methodologies? Well, here's my chicken's butt. Nice close up. My chicken's bums. It's the methodologies that can really help with me managing my stress. You know, for me, that has led to me training as a yoga teacher. But to begin with, I just started with simple things like meditation, which is a simple thing, but it is really difficult. So don't be fooled into thinking that meditation is this easy breezy thing. It's actually really difficult to do, even though it's simple. But things like meditation, breath work, yoga, these are really well evidenced practices in terms of helping you manage your hormones. And you might be thinking, yeah, Kezia, everyone talks about stress. What has this actually got to do with my hormones? But one way of thinking about it in terms of your actual biology is all hormones in the body are made from the same base ingredient, the same material. And so stress hormones are a type of hormones. If we think about cortisol really simply, which is a really healthy hormone, we need to have good balanced amounts of in the body. But if we get an excess of that, then we actually start to steal from that pool of ingredients, and that can really especially affect things like progesterone. So this isn't about managing stress so that you can just feel a bit more relaxed. It's about understanding how much different stresses and a stress response in your body impacts your sex hormones. So if you are chronically stressed and have been chronically stressed for a really long time, it's going to be really difficult for you to create the right balanced hormonal state so that you can have boring periods, because your body is always going to be prioritizing your survival over an optimal hormonal experience. Your body, if it's getting a lot of data input each day telling it to survive without it being managed properly through meditation, breath work, being in nature, quality sleep, all of these things that help to manage your stress levels, then your body is always going to prioritize your survival over optimal hormonal balance. That's just how our biology works. Your body wants you to primarily live rather than reproduce, and so it will create that very simplistic hierarchy, thankfully. But if you are just sick of having awful, heavy, painful, erratic, irregular, disappearing periods, you do really need to address, okay, how is the stress response, the biological stress response in my body, what impact could that be having on both the production and also, in a way, the elimination of hormones? And that's a really important thing that a lot of people miss. I was tempted, and for many years I did just jump to buying supplements or eating certain foods, and those things obviously play a role, but one of the big things I needed to look at was regular kind of maintenance tools to help me signal to the brain that my brain is safe. If you're struggling with really uncomfortable, difficult periods, it'll be because on a really simplistic level, there is data input, there is signaling between the brain and the ovaries that you're not safe in some way. And this is sometimes where trauma work can come into it as well, which is a slightly different approach and a different theme or a different topic rather than just stress input. But it's really important that you address both. From working with hundreds of people and hundreds of women around their hormones, it's really difficult to have boring hormones if you are in chronically stressed state or if you are living kind of with undealt with trauma.